Welcome to this episode of Cappuccino and Croissant, where today we're diving into the world of a pop phenomenon you all know, even if you've tried to forget. Yes, we're talking about Justin Bieber, that same star who went from an adorable, perfectly coiffed kid on YouTube to the rebellious young man splashed across tabloid covers, and now, well, a married 30-something preaching stability and faith. Quite the journey for someone who is still an adolescent in a backward cap only 15 minutes ago. So, why Bieber? Why devote an entire episode to someone who launched his career singing Baby in a YouTube video? Because, let's face it, whether you love him or love to hate him, Justin Bieber embodies much more than catchy and sometimes overly pop songs. He's become, almost in spite of himself, the poster child for idol worship 2.0, the kind that takes a kid from Stratford and turns him into a global icon, while he's teetered on the edge more than a few times. Speaking of edges, his journey has been littered with controversies, public redemptions, and personal transformations that would deserve an Oscar, or at least a Grammy for most resilient in the face of media hysteria. Today, we're giving you the full biopic rundown on Justin Bieber, but don't expect sugar-coated glamour. We're coming at it with that slightly cynical, biting tone that's our signature. Because behind the glitz and the followers, there are some less than shiny truths. Moments when the pop star flirted with the dark side of fame and fought for his own mental health under relentless spotlights. And that's really what we're here to dig into, understanding how this kid from YouTube became an unintentional symbol of our collective obsession with instant fame and the toll it takes on those caught up in it, or who try, against all odds, to pull themselves back out. Here's the lineup. We're dissecting his beginnings, his media-stormed trials and tribulations. Oh yes, the juicy headlines are all here. His cultural impact and how he's gradually reshaped his image. Justin Bieber, from wild teen to introspective adult, with a few biblical tattoos thrown in for good measure. And, of course, we'll also be asking what kind of future awaits artists like him in this age where every misstep becomes a hashtag, and cancel culture lurks in every digital corner. So, buckle up. This episode promises to be as intense as the ups and downs of a Bieber ballad. Whether you're here out of nostalgia, curiosity, or just to try and grasp how this teen turned adult conquered and influenced an entire generation, you're in the right place. Let's start at the beginning of Justin Bieber's journey because, as with any dramatic saga worth its salt, there must be a meteoric rise before the complications set in. Before the paparazzi and the tattoos entered the picture, there was just a kid with raw talent, a karaoke mic, and a seemingly endless supply of YouTube videos. Back in 2007, an unknown kid from Stratford, Ontario, yes, a place no one could have found on a map before him, uploads his first R&B covers. At the time, who would have thought a 13-year-old in a hoodie could attract so much attention? But here we are. With a voice that had that catchy hook and a style that was awkwardly endearing, Bieber started pulling in a crowd. Enter Justin Timberlake and Usher in 2008, each one watching this growing phenomenon from the sidelines. Ultimately, Usher won the race, signing Justin to Island Records and kicking off what the industry calls a success story. Polished, packaged, and just a tad premeditated. With the release of My World in 2009, Bieber officially became the crush of millions of teenagers and the nightmare of parents who couldn't bear hearing one time for the 1,000th time. Seriously, they deserved a medal. His success was seismic. My World went platinum in record time, and he became the youngest solo artist to chart 7 songs on the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously. Not bad for a kid who literally began his career in his basement. And then came that legendary Baby video, 2009, which could almost be considered one of the original viral videos. It shattered records, collected millions of views, and catapulted Bieber into the realm of instant celebrity. To this day, it's still one of the most viewed clips on YouTube and, notably, one of the most liked and disliked, because the internet is nothing if not generous, right? But this monster's success didn't just come from raw talent and a nice face. Bieber fever in the late 2000s was also a masterclass in digital marketing. The timing was impeccable. YouTube was taking off. Facebook was turning everyone into like experts. And Twitter was transforming into more than just a Bluebird logo. His manager, Scooter Braun, a visionary. Scooter Braun, a visionary, or perhaps the devil incarnate depending on your perspective, played social media like his own private playground. Bieber wasn't merely an artist. He became a cultural icon, a well-packaged product for a plugged-in generation. With perfectly staged TV appearances, mobs of hysterical fans, and merchandise ranging from posters to perfumes, everything was set for Bieber mania to be an inevitability. Marketing experts say Bieber pioneered the way artists manage their image on social media, from direct fan engagement using platforms as an extension of their brand. For fans, he wasn't just the pop star of their dreams. He was accessible, with innocent tweets and candid videos of him strumming a guitar, as if there wasn't a whole team orchestrating it all. Bieber became the relatable teen idol, miles away from the untouchable star personas of legends like Michael Jackson. But this meteoric success came with a price. That same public that adored him began to expect more. At just 16, being thrust into the role of a global superstar has consequences. Justin found himself scrutinized, analyzed, and judged constantly, a level of attention that, as celebrity psychologists will tell you, can destabilize even the most grounded personalities. So what does this rapid ascent tell us about the entertainment industry? That even a kid from Stratford can become a global icon if he's in the right place at the right time, and has a team that understands the mechanics of the internet. This first chapter of Bieber's career reads almost like a modern-day fable. In a world where talent is massively distributed online, success waits for no one to grow into it. You sing, you dance, you keep moving forward, but does anyone really stop to ask what it all means? Today, Bieber's first act tells us one thing. Fame is made online, and it can unravel just as quickly. He may have been a raw talent at the start, but he became the poster child of a generation chasing instant fame, sometimes without fully grasping its costs. Because behind the pop star's charming smile, the millions of views and the records there were right from the start, the seeds of what would grow into a complex journey, where psychological balance would soon be put to the ultimate test. Welcome to the darker chapter in the Justin Bieber saga, where the smiling boy with a mic in one hand and a puppy in the other morphs into, well, let's call it a less illustrious version of himself. This evolution from child prodigy to self-proclaimed bad boy wasn't just a blip on the radar. It was a headline machine, a textbook example of what happens to child stars who've never known a normal life. Between 2012 and 2014, as Justin aimed to shed the teen idol image for a more serious artist persona, things went off the rails. Cue the nightclub scuffles, illegal drag racing, and that infamous 2014 DUI arrest in Miami, complete with a booking photo displaying a bizarrely calm, or perhaps just glazed over, smile. The media, naturally, wasted no time dubbing him the male Lindsay Lohan, and psychologists feasted on the opportunity to analyze the effects of fame on the adolescent brain. To decode this phase, it's worth looking at research from figures like Dr. Donna Rockwell, an expert in celebrity psychology. She highlights that the constant attention and isolation that come with fame create levels of stress and depression surpassing those of more ordinary careers. In other words, fame functions like a potent drug. It grants an illusion of complete control until that illusion shatters. Now throw in the added pressures of growing up, an industry that demands relentless output, and media scrutiny that's unavoidable, and you've got a recipe for risky behavior. During his rebellious phase, the world collectively experienced a unique phenomenon: Bieber fatigue. Fans, media, even his sponsors seemed to tire of the endless antics. And when the public begins to find a pop star's excesses tiresome, the PR crisis usually starts in earnest. Bieber, who had carefully curated a clean-cut image, maybe with a discreet tattoo here and there, morphed into the archetypal tortured rock star. It's the age-old story of the child star who, upon growing up, goes rogue and seems to collect ego-driven moments and outbursts like concert tease. Ironically, every scandal seemed only to fuel the Bieber machine rather than stop it. The Miami arrest dominated headlines for weeks. His singles saw a surge in sales, and the hashtag #FreeBieber was everywhere on Twitter. Far from ending his career, this bad boy image paradoxically generated sympathy and curiosity, making his public persona feel more complicated and intriguing. It's as if each meltdown served as an update for his public image, evolving him into a more layered figure in the entertainment industry. But we're a figure in the entertainment industry. That where others' careers might have fizzled, Bieber pulled off a calculated media comeback in 2015 that was almost poetic in its irony. Embracing his chaotic side, he found a way to flip the narrative. Purpose 2015 marked a real shift, both musically and personally. The syrupy ballads were gone. Bieber teamed up with Skrillex and Diplo to flirt with EDM, creating tracks that felt far more mature. And, of course, Bieber teamed up with Skrillex and Diplo to flirt with EDM, creating tracks that felt far more mature. The lyrics went introspective, hinting at past mistakes, regrets, and a quest for redemption. It was a textbook public apology, exposing his flaws to humanize the icon. So, after the bad boy phase, here we arrive at the redemption chapter. And what a redemption it is. From a media standpoint, Bieber has pulled off one of the smoothest comebacks in modern pop. Gone are the arrests, scandals, and awkward sound bites. Since 2018, he's metamorphosed into the poster child for maturity and stability, or at least the appearance of it, complete with marriage, meditation, and even a baptism. The once rebellious child star is now an ostensibly calm adult, portraying an image of a settled, nearly pious man. But between us, isn't this all a brilliantly orchestrated PR move? Let's not pretend that Bieber reemerged on his own, lightened and rosary in hand. This return to normalcy has been meticulously staged. You only need to look at his interviews, public appearances, and collaborations to see it. In 2018, he married model Hailey Baldwin, and this union became an entire chapter of his public narrative. Hailey isn't just the love of his life. She's the cornerstone of his reinvention. In a world that worships image, it seems that marriage, faith, and returning to one's roots have become his go-to communication tools. The most striking aspect of this phase is the very public embrace of spirituality. Bieber has become increasingly vocal about his connection to evangelical Christianity, making appearances at church events and leaning heavily on his affiliation with Hillsong, a media-heavy megachurch known for attracting celebrities like bees to divine honey, controversial bees, if we're honest. With baptism photos and a jacuzzi, no less, faith has become his angle of choice for this transformation. A choice that, whether intended or not, has offered him an almost instant rebranding, according to a Pew Research Center study on the perception of religious celebrities. Public figures who embrace spirituality often gain a kind of immunity to criticism, earning a nearly priceless sympathy capital. Did Bieber play this card? We could say that, consciously or not. He incorporated values of redemption and forgiveness into a public persona that appeals to an audience tired of scandals but hungry for uplifting narratives. Alongside this spiritual rebirth, Bieber leveraged musical collaborations to regain pop relevance. By teaming up with artists like Ed Sheeran, I Don't Care, Ariana Grande Stuck With You, and even rapper Chance the Rapper, Holy, he deftly navigated between musical genres. These collaborations aren't just commercial hits. They mold him into a more versatile figure, someone who adapts to trends and stays relevant in an industry where popularity is as fleeting as a summer hit. These strategic choices allowed Bieber to reestablish himself as a respectable and multidimensional artist, far from the sometimes dismissed image of a pop child star. This turn has reconnected him with a more adult audience, receptive to collaborations and artistic variety. And it's working. Streaming platforms today show his music reaching far beyond the adolescent fan base he started with, broadening to a more mature, multicultural audience. With this reinvention, Bieber also tried to engage in deeper cultural dialogues. In 2020, he released the album Justice, which didn't just dominate the charts but also stirred controversy by sampling Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches. Amid a period of social reevaluation, activism, and discussions around racial justice, Bieber faced backlash, with critics calling out cultural appropriation and superficiality. Cultural commentators were quick to point out the absurdity of pasting MLK quotes on a pop album with little real coherence or context. For some, this signaled that Bieber, even in his quest for meaning and relevance, may have missed the mark. The Atlantic noted that using justice icons for artistic gain without context risks eroding the authenticity of his intentions. Yet, while such controversies might derail other careers, Bieber's has thrived, partly because his loyal fan base of young adults remains steadfast. Bieber has always been this hybrid product, both pop icon and ever-evolving brand. And here we are, in 2024, looking at a Justin Bieber who is far from the Stratford kid, yet still constantly searching for legitimacy, a pop culture chameleon who perfectly embodies the contradictions of modern fame. For better or worse, Bieber represents this era's brand of celebrity, ever shifting between sincerity and savvy younger, and between personal growth and strategic calculation. Perhaps this is the essence of his cultural impact. Bieber, for better or worse, embodies a generation of celebrities who transform on cue, adapting to audience expectations and fighting to stay on top. His journey isn't just a story of rise and fall. It's a case study in how celebrities must continually reinvent themselves to stay relevant. Ultimately, this segment shows us not a wholly reformed or serene Justin Bieber, but a fascinatingly complex figure who walks the line between authenticity and image management, between seeking meaning and pursuing fame. One thing is certain: love him or hate him, Justin Bieber is the embodiment of modern fame. Flawed, ambitious, and Bieber is the embodiment of modern fame. Flawed, ambitious, and keenly aware that his greatest skill might just be his ability to keep us guessing. So here we are. Justin Bieber is more than just a pop culture product. He's become a mirror, reflecting some of the most, shall we say, characteristic aspects of our age. Behind the music videos, indulgences, and carefully staged redemptions, what does Bieber's trajectory say about today's society? More than we might want to admit. If Bieber's story teaches us anything, it's that our society doesn't just idolize celebrities anymore. It wants to see them stumble, then rise again, preferably with a public redemption arc. For every misstep and documented indulgence, there's an audience eager to consume the rebirth phase. We see this trend everywhere from Miley Cyrus to Demi Lovato, but with Bieber, the cycle has been particularly telling. According to recent studies from Forbes, this redemption culture is an exceptionally effective marketing strategy. Data shows that celebrities who craft well-planned comebacks often see increases in both revenue and popularity after a period of crisis. Bieber may not have been the first, but he's certainly helped codify the model of public redemption, making it almost an expected stage in a pop star's career. His ascent, fall, and rebirth prove that as an audience, we're drawn to transformation stories, especially when they're as profitable as they are emotional. Bieber also personifies the music industry's obsession with youth. In an industry where age becomes nearly a disadvantage past 30, Justin achieved fame as a teen idol while bearing the intense pressures of an industry that's always hungry for new talent, ready to discard them at the first sign of wear. Now, as he approaches 30, he's already labeled a pop legend, as if he's lived an entire career in just over a decade. The New York Times recently published an article analyzing how the music industry has become a youth-driven factory, fueled by social media. Artists are thrust into the spotlight at younger and younger ages, turning what should be a gradual rise into a sprint where adulthood barely arrives before they're legends primed for replacement. Bieber's journey captures the dizzying pace of a machine that consumes, exposes, and recycles talent at breakneck speed. Then, of course, we have to address the more contentious aspect: Bieber's navigation of culture and appropriation. His 2021 album Justice tried to incorporate themes of social justice, but his artistic choices, such as sampling Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches, sparked considerable backlash. According to a Guardian investigation in 2022, this approach, perceived as a clumsy attempt to stay relevant, raised serious concerns about the superficial use of symbols of struggle for commercial gain. In an era where artists feel increasingly compelled to weave political or social messages into their work, Justice's relative failure serves as a reminder that audiences now demand far more authenticity than they did just a few years ago. Once again, Bieber represents a trend of celebrities walking the tightrope between influence and social awareness, without always understanding the nuances. Performative activism is a label modern artists can no longer afford to wear without consequences. For Bieber, this resulted in polarized reactions. Some fans continued to support him, while others saw these choices as glaringly inauthentic. In short, Justin Bieber's journey isn't just that of a rising star who survived fame. It's a reflection of our own relationship with celebrities, redemption, and image consumption. Bieber embodies a generation of stars who live to be adored, then criticized, and finally forgiven. He is both a product and a casualty of a system where fame is consumed like a series with episodes, each phase of his life delivering new dramas, resurrections, and marketing maneuvers. Through this analysis, we might even question whether Bieber's path provides a sort of collective catharsis. By following him, we're consuming, almost unconsciously, the spectacle of a life shaped by the demands of an industry and an audience eager for stories of triumph and downfall. In 2024, Justin Bieber may no longer simply be a pop artist, but an icon shaped by and for the times. Whether it's his complex relationship with fame, questionable choices, or endless attempts to reinvent himself, Bieber crystallizes everything that makes our relationship with celebrities so intricate and sometimes a tad unsettling. In the end, the Bieber phenomenon speaks volumes about us, about our tendency to idolize, judge, and wait expectantly for redemption as if it's a Netflix series, following season after season. So before we close this analysis, perhaps it's worth asking, have we witnessed a genuine redemption or simply a series of well-executed image management decisions? And if Bieber symbolizes the ups and downs of our culture of image, what does that say about our own expectations as spectators, consumers, and maybe accomplices? And here we are, finally at the point where we have to ask, what truly remains of Justin Bieber? Beyond the global hits, the scandals, and the marketing-driven resurrections, what legacy does he actually leave behind? Is he just another figure from the pop era, or has he genuinely shaped the culture of his time? Buckle up, because we're diving into a question as slippery as a Canadian ice rink. Justin Bieber isn't simply a product of his era, he's practically its archetype. Arriving at the dawn of a socialized internet, when YouTube had just begun catapulting everyday people into the spotlight, he's one of the first to turn a digital stroke of luck into a worldwide career. But Bieber's real contribution lies in his ability to play with the image of the fragile, relatable artist while reinventing himself just enough to keep audiences interested. He paved the way for stars like Shawn Mendes and Billie Eilish, showing that a career could start behind an amateur camera and expand into a sprawling empire of record deals, brand collaborations, and streaming royalties. A 2023 Billboard study confirmed this trend. Artists born from social media who can juggle curated authenticity with precision-timed hits now dominate the charts. In that sense, Bieber practically ushered in an era where vulnerability, even if it's stage-managed, became the new standard. Today, most pop stars know they'll need to share a bit of their private lives, or at least what they choose to let us see to keep the public hooked. It's practically in the playbook now. On a style level, it would be almost criminal not to acknowledge Justin Bieber's influence on the aesthetic of the 2010s and beyond. From near full-body tattoos displayed like battle scars from a tumultuous youth to that effortlessly grunge meets high-fashion streetwear, Bieber created a visual signature that infiltrated Gen Z's dress codes. Oversized hoodies, luxury sneakers, and beanies became the hallmarks of a look that balances luxury with accessible cool, a style many brands have tried to replicate or capitalize on. More subtly, he's also left his mark on what we might call pop spirituality. With his cross tattoos, quasi-mystical Instagram posts, and highly publicized faith-driven marriage, Bieber helped pioneer a trend where young celebrities weave personal spirituality into their public identity. As Vogue noted in 2023, this visible faith has become a kind of spiritual branding that, while critiqued, fascinates audiences. In short, he's helped make faith cool again, at least for those seeking to connect with something bigger in a stylish way. If we're talking legacy, it's worth noting that Bieber has lasted where so many others have faded. In an industry where a pop star's lifespan is often measured in months, his continued relevance is remarkable. He's still generating millions of streams and remains a figure of fascination. According to a 2024 Spotify report, he's still among the most streamed artists globally, drawing in millions of new listeners every year. The question is, why? And perhaps more importantly, how? There's something undeniably captivating about his ability to grow with his audience, accompanying them from adolescence to adulthood. Where other artists stagnate, Bieber has matured slowly but surely, mirroring the ups and downs of his own life. In a strange, unspoken agreement, his fans seem to forgive his missteps, perhaps because they're lived publicly with brutal honesty, or at least a convincing impression of it. At his core, he embodies that resilience so highly prized in today's culture where falling is allowed as long as you get back up and post about it. In the end, Bieber isn't just a singer. He's become a cultural icon and a reference point in pop history. Whether you love or hate his style or choices, he represents a generation raised under the constant gaze of the public, reshaping the very notion of fame. He's a perfect example of how music is just one chapter in a public life filled with drama, repentance, and reinvention. His impact goes beyond music, touching fashion, faith, and even our view of public redemption. Justin Bieber's journey is also that of a generation, an industry constantly hungry for fresh faces to feed its machine, and an audience addicted to narratives as spectacular as they are tragic. His longevity, influence, and ability to stay relevant in an ever-volatile industry speak volumes about what it means to be a star today. Ultimately, Bieber leaves us with a fascinating paradox. He's both the embodiment of everything that can go wrong with early fame and a living example of success that survived an almost inevitable disaster. He's endured public storms, rebuilt himself, and remains here as a testament to the transformation of the music industry, pop culture, and, dare we say, a certain part of our society. His legacy? An invitation to reflect on what fame truly means today, in all its glossy superficiality, but also in its ability to inspire, or at least provoke. Whether you see Bieber as a role model, a curiosity, or a mystery, one thing is clear: he leaves no one indifferent. And maybe, just maybe, that's the secret to every true icon. And here we are, at the end of an episode where we've explored, through soaring successes and spectacular shipwrecks, what makes Justin Bieber so much more than a pop icon. Whether you love him or adore him in secret, because of course you'd never admit it, the Bieber phenomenon transcends radio hits. He's the living embodiment of an era where fame is built on amateur videos, sold through likes, and can even make a comeback after a media apocalypse. By now, he's almost comparable to a phoenix, endlessly rising from the ashes, with this near magical knack for bouncing back after each public misstep. Through his highs and lows, he's also become a kind of social mirror, where fans, and the merely curious, find reflections of both their ambitions and their own struggles. If there's one thing that stands out in this unvarnished portrait, it's that Bieber has managed to turn his mistakes into public life lessons. We follow him like a series full of cliffhangers, and maybe that's the intrigue. He's both character and narrator of his own saga, a living example of what it means to survive the music industry without completely losing one's soul, or what's left of it. But let's be honest, Justin Bieber is also a business, with billions of dollars revolving around his career. He's the hallmark of a time where music is no longer an artist's only asset, but rather a chapter in a much larger story, where everything, from fashion to faith, can be monetized. In the era of streaming, brand deals, and hypermedia saturation, Bieber is both the product and the producer of his own legend. And so, the final question looms: is Bieber's legacy rooted in his music, or in the image of modern resilience he's managed to construct against all odds? Perhaps his greatest magic trick was learning to play by the rules, twisting and reshaping them to his advantage until he became not just an artist, but a social phenomenon, reinventing himself to match his audience's expectations. So, to the question, Justin Bieber, fleeting star or cultural legend? Well, maybe the answer isn't as simple as we'd like. Regardless, Bieber is the icon of a generation that consumes, shares, and judges at lightning speed. And even if his legacy eventually fades into the hazy pop past, one thing is certain: Justin Bieber has left a rare intensity stamped upon his era. Thank you for joining Cappuccino and Croissant. If this episode has inspired, questioned, or even slightly annoyed you, hey, we're not immune to that either. Feel free to keep the conversation going on the comment section, social media, or my website, capcroissantmedia.com, where you can also make a little contribution to help the podcast grow, because this debate is far from over. Until next time, and remember, even pop stars have their flaws, and maybe that's what makes them all too human, almost.